Ahoy! Here I am. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Now then, welcome to the BBC Spews Live. It is the 30th of August. Huzzah! There's lots of interesting things to talk about, as usual, because the world's run by raving lunatics, and we are here to watch. Loads of good stuff to talk about. It's been a mad week, hasn't it? Mad week, as usual, when you're not a sovereign nation and psychopaths, globalist scum rule over you with an iron fist. Loads of mad shit happens. One thing that I'm going to cover some American politics first for a sec, because nice to see that the globalist sociopaths are doing the same playbook all around the world, isn't it? Because it's the same old crack where you get a bloke who runs on a mandate and wins a mandate. Trump won a landslide, and he took all of the contentious swing states, what they call them out here, which is where the jump between the parties. He won all 7 swing states. He got a mandate to do as he pleases, and every single thing he tries to do, they insist on fighting with lawfare, which is relevant, isn't it? Because this is what we're talking about with Epping. The people think one thing, and the globalist sociopaths think another. And it can't continue. It can't continue. What's mad is that we've tolerated it for as long as we have. I think it's time for a reckoning. How can you delude yourself into thinking you live in a democracy when we have the elections, the people run on a open platform telling you exactly what they're going to do? You respond by voting for the person whose platform you like the best. And then when they get in, these activist lawyers and judges and scumbags do the exact opposite of what they tell you. Or if the person happens to be honest about it, the judges and the lawyers will do everything in their power to stop them doing what they told you they were going to do, and that's why you voted for them in the first place. Think of that. So I keep saying, so it's not bloody hyperbolic to call it authoritarianism. That's what it is. If you vote for them on a specific platform and then they get in and do the exact opposite, or use lawfare to stop someone who is honest about it, doing all the stuff that they promised the people they were going to do, you're living in an occupied nation. The Americans, because they never had Tony Blair, and Obama wasn't quite as bad, they've got less of an issue with it, but it's still a thing, this lawfare. Like, why? What do you mean illegal? Why? Who cares? Legal used to be a thing. Like, what laws came about as a result of the people agreeing that something should be prohibited. The people don't agree that a tariff should be prohibited. It's not like fingering an 8-year-old. We all think that should be illegal. We don't think this should be. But they go, the law. The law. Oh, you can't. What if 90% of the people in Epping don't want hairy-ass blokes from the third world in Epping? There shouldn't be any in Epping. The law is that. If you fundamentally think about it, the law is simply the will of the people made manifest. Things are prohibited when everyone agrees they should be. Things are legal when everybody agrees they should be. This bollocks is just obfuscation. It's tyranny by another name. It is. The people want Trump to try and sort the economy out. What do you mean illegal? It's a trade deal. What do you mean illegal? Anyway, I'll read you it for a sec and then I'll rant about it, obviously. It said a federal appeals court has ruled that most of Donald Trump's tariffs are an overreach of his emergency powers as president. The so-called reciprocal tariffs imposed on nearly every country the US trades with are being illegally imposed. The US Court of Appeal said on Friday. The decision upholds a ruling in May from the Court of International Trade which rejected Trump's argument that his global tariffs were permitted under an Emergency Economic Powers Act. All of this is globalist lawfare, isn't it? Who in the right mind thinks what is essentially nothing more than a business agreement should be determined by the legal system. Law, as I said, used to be to prescribe stuff like you're not allowed to steal from me, you're not allowed to break into my kitchen and shit on the floor and make off with a TV set. That was the law. The law shouldn't be involved in this. Like, I'm deciding I'm going to charge a percentage if people purchase from you. Oh, well, you can't do that. It's against the law. How? It's not like stealing. It's just a tariff. If you don't want to pay, don't buy it. It's ludicrous. These scumbag judges do the same in the States as they're doing there. The difference is, and it's a big difference, in the UK, they're doing it in favour of the criminals. So, again, I'm sick of repeating myself, but for those of you that are new and you haven't really been paying that much attention, the reason it kicked off in Epping is because an Ethiopian diddler had a pop on a little teenage girl. That's why it kicked off in Epping. If that was the catalyst that caused the whole problem. So it didn't come out of nowhere, and yet, because they're much worse than Trumpy Bear's lot, the state has determined that they want to side with the illegal kiddie fiddlers. Think of that. Think of that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are contentious in the world, but I would think siding with foreign kiddie fiddlers is like, quite cut and dried. A lot of things are quite, contentious. Abortion, yeah, but a woman has a right to her own bodily autonomy, yeah, but it's a life, yeah, that's contentious. Euthanasia, that's contentious. Oh, yeah, well, no one should suffer and you put dogs down, but, there are ethical concerns and you're taking a life. Being pro-Ethiopian kiddie fiddler seems like it's quite an obvious one, that. It seems like, if you were to stop 100 people in the street and say, do you think we should defend the rights of Ethiopian kiddie fiddlers? 99 of them would say, definitely not. And the only one who would say, yeah, is the Ethiopian kiddie fiddler. If you happen to stop another Ethiopian kiddie fiddler, he'd be the only voice of dissent, dare I say. So, quite a strange time to be living in, isn't it? Very, very odd when the state is siding with the Ethiopian kiddie fiddlers. So, as I said, it's not hyperbolic to say so. You're living in a police state. The government... Oh, look at this. There's another one. Just found that one. One rule for you, another rule for them. Masks. They forced us to put the masks on. Forced it. Illegal, dare I say. Should be illegal under the old definition of the term, which is the people disagree with it. They forced you to put the masks on. Now they can force you to take them off. That makes loads of sense, doesn't it? In, out, shake it all about. It's the mask on, mask off, hokey-cokey at the whims of the authoritarian state. It's unbelievable. So they've said here, look at that. I love that. They're just putting red crosses on everything. Officers will be able to order people to remove face coverings if they're worn during a protest. Oh, okay. But you still see illegal immigrants wear it. Oh, they can wear them. Yeah, they can wear them. If an immigrant wants to walk around with a mask on, he's allowed. Because you're a wanker. That's why. Yeah, cheers. So that's good. I love that. Again, same with Trudeau. In, out, shake it all about. Change the rules on a whim whenever you want. Another story they're covering is this one, which is smoke and mirrors. The councils are planning an asylum hotel legal action despite the Epping ruling. And they'll keep reporting about this dogmatically, regularly, because that'll convince you that you don't live in a police state, as if there's a process, right? We know this was bollocks because the court case was a foregone conclusion. It was nailed on. When I presented you the judges before the ruling was made, you knew and I knew what was going to happen, didn't you? You knew it was a foregone conclusion. Hey, Marcus has joined the channel. Cheers, Marcus. Thanks, mate. The more of them you get, the better you are at keeping them off your balls. So thank you to Marcus. You are important to me now. Yeah, so this is just to try and convince you that all these things aren't a foregone conclusion. Totally pointless. Totally pointless. That's a good point as well, yeah. Yeah, again, this is what I keep saying. The rules are for you and not for them. You're allowed to walk around in a blue ninja costume. You're allowed to walk around like a letterbox lady, aren't you? You can wear whatever you want if you're a regular at the Marvellous snack bar. Which reminds me, why don't you treat yourself to a Marvellous Alan snack bar shirt drawn and designed by your pal, the Angry Bootneck? Hang on, let me find a link to it. There we are, the Angry Bootneck shop, dashery.com. Have a look. There you go. Bosh. The best seller by far is not the Be a Pig shirt with all of those things on that we like because our eternal embittered foes don't. No, that's not the best one. The best one is still, by far, the Alan Snack Bar shirt, because you're not allowed to talk about the regulars at Alan Snack Bar, but you can wear a shirt and covertly talk shite about them, can't you? So, yeah, get one. It's a good idea, if you ask me. Where was I? Oh, yeah, this shit. So, it's all bollocks. It's a foregone conclusion. You're not going to win. The state is dead set against you. You're not going to have a chance to deport hundreds of thousands of perverts and diddlers and illegal migrants and criminals and thugs unless you make it happen aggressively. The only justice in life is the justice you take and the justice you make. You will not get it from a hostile state, okay? It said some councils say they're still pursuing legal action to stop asylum seekers from being housed in hotels, despite a court of appeal. How dare they? How dare they push back against an authoritarian state? Shocking. Despite, oh my God, despite the court of appeal. Who cares, right? The court on Friday overturned a temporary injunction which would have prevented asylum seekers from being housed at the Bell Hotel, which was seen as a possible precedent for legal challenges elsewhere, which is why the authoritarian state had answered the question before it got asked. Obviously, unless you're an idiot. Two councils told the BBC they will keep pursuing legal action. How dare they? You mean despite a Court of Appeal ruling? The great unwashed. How dare they? Epping Forest District Council, which had obtained the injunction, said it's looking at its options, including appealing to the Supreme Court. Yeah, loads of point in that, innit? Loads of point in spending money going to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was created by Tony Blair. It's not a Supreme Court. It's a sham. It's a joke. The Supreme Court will do as they please. They couldn't give a monkey's fart what you have to say about Ethiopian diddlers. So what's the point? What's the point in wasting everybody's money? It's a foregone conclusion. Reform said all 12 councils it controls should be exploring legal options to stop asylum seekers being housed. Yeah, so vote Reform. That, again, you can slag off Frogface, but that's concrete action. They're saying, we'll fight tooth and nail to stop Ethiopian kiddie fiddlers being put next to our houses. Weird that, innit? Hey, Steve, you're right to join the channel as well. I'm on a roll here. Well done, Stevie. You'll do for me, son. Let's keep Neil off me balls. Thanks very much. Yeah, so pointless waste of money. Waste of time, waste of money. No point. Get angry is how you fix this problem. The other thing is, I will say this. I haven't devoted any time, and I've been vocal about why, to slagging off Farage or talking out about Reform. As I've told you, UTB, hey, we're on one. We're on one now, aren't we? Borough's actually playing well for a change. It's one of those things, like, I still stand by. I refuse to slag off Reform. I'm not going to put any effort into criticising them. So I'm not going to take the time to... I almost said write there. That'd be a lie. I don't write. Film and edit. Write, film and edit. Normal YouTubers write, film and edit. Natural gobshites like the Angry Bootneck just film and edit. But yeah, I'm not going to film and edit material criticising Reform. I think it's ridiculous. I'm convinced people do it because it sells well. I'm not having a go at Carl Benjamin or Paz or any of them. You know, I like them. I agree with them. Paz a class as a friend of mine. You know, I want to meet him in Disneyland next year. But I think because it sells well and it does generate a lot of clicks, because the online right get raged about it. I think the fall into the trap of audience capture and doing a lot of it because it generates some feedback. But I'm not doing it. I'm not devoting any time to criticising them because you have to unify. If this happened in again, so I'll tell you before you all start whinging in the chat. Like I said, if you want to advocate for Forward or any of the channel or any of the new parties that Elon's been pushing, that's totally fine. Of course, I'm in alignment with you politically. I want millions of people throwing out of the country, and I don't think reform will go as far as we need to. However, I'm not going to criticise the only chance we seem to have at this moment in time of actually getting some change. Will they enact us change that we want? No, probably not. But to start, it's the thin end of the wedge. If reform can break through, maybe that'll cause a mass splintering. And then Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens, they'll all starting for alternatives and the SNP in Scotland. And then we might end up with some real parties. And then maybe after that, then you can get with any of these big parties that are starting up, Ben Habib's lot and that. But as it stands, it's suicide to tear them down, because this is exactly what happened in Australia, and it's what happened in Poland. Poland, the right was winning easily, and then the right split in half, and then everybody jumped on that, and then the right lost because the left galvanised behind one party. It's what they've done. It's what the regulars at Allen's snack bar have done across the UK. The local inhabitants are all spread out between all these different parties, and then the full-blown regulars at the snack bar, hardcore, basically pro-suicide bomber groups, they suddenly have a seat in Parliament. It's mental. I just don't understand it. Yeah, Carl, this is what we're talking about, though. If it's already at they're at 7% and the mainstream media aren't on board, so you push reform, and then if Habib gets up to 20%, then you start aggressively pushing them and you tell everyone who's voting for reform, okay, jump in with Ben. But you don't do it that way around. No way. I don't want the mainstream media to stop following Farage around. He's the only one who gets any traction. As I said, the online right is not the people. The online right's not the people. The online right's tiny. The Matt Goodwin's completely right about this. I'm talking about audience capture there. This is an echo chamber. What we're doing here is an echo chamber. The online right and the people that watch the online right make up about 4% of the voting bloc. If you don't get the old boomers and the middle-aged twats and the housewives and everyone, the young people who don't getting the content off YouTube and Twitter, if you don't get them, you don't get anything. And it happened in Poland. The right split in half, and then a load of lefty arseholes won. So I'll start gobbing off about slagging off Farage when it looks actually feasible that anybody else is getting in there. All right, what's happened to Dino? Dino Bain, who are you talking about, right? Sorry, there's I get a shitload of comments in the chat now. They haven't binned his channel, have they? I hope not. Hang on, let me read up. Too many bloody messages these days. Much easier to do this when I only had 3,000 followers. Tell you, mate, Dino, that's only the mention of him. I don't think he's been knocked out, has he? If you're on about that, Dino is quite aggressively against Farage again. Like I said, happens a lot. Isn't the MSM being pro-Nigel a red flag? Yeah, definitely. But as I said, you got to be cunning. Told Ice-T to leave the car running. That's an easy song I remember from when I was a teenager. Yeah, you got to be cunning though, and try and use them, work within the system to beat them. That is a red flag. Farage is a mainstream politician, isn't he? They've been covering him for 30 years. But that's the thin end of the wedge we can use. The fact that they'll talk about him proves he is kind of a creature of the state. But basically what'll happen is, I mean, I can tell you what's going to happen. If we don't fracture, because this is the big problem, if we fracture, he won't win. Reform won't win in 2029. Labour will win. If Reform vote splits between Habib's party, Reform, and the Conservatives, Labour will win with 19% of the vote. Do you know what I mean? Because the left will give up on Zara Sultana. If they see a chink in the armour and think it's close, they'll ditch Zara Sultana and they'll go with Labour. They'll hold the nose. The Islamo-fascists will hold the nose and vote Labour. They will. So at the end of the day, what's going to happen is, fingers crossed, we don't consume the right. All the old boomer Conservatives are taking notice finally, and Reform are ahead of the polls. This is all part of the plan, isn't it? This is the other thing. I told you lot this 4-5 years ago. When did I lose my rag with Boris? Long-term viewers, Carl, you've watched me for ages. Long-term viewers know the plan. I told you back when I lost my rag with Boris, like a year after I voted for him, I realised it was folly. He's a big, fat, lying, porridge-faced albino jellyfish. We realised it was folly, and I said, right, can't have this. Definitely ditching the Tories. I know it's going to put Labour in the White House. You all watch this, long-time viewers. I said all this before the election. Right, I know it's going to put Labour in the White House, but it's time to rip the plaster off. We have to abandon the Conservatives, let the party die, let the lefties put Starmer in. They're going to be awful. I didn't know it was going to be this awful, but they're going to be awful. But then finally, maybe the last gasp, if it's not too late, we can get an actual viable right-wing party in before 2030. If we all ditch Reform now, we've messed the plan up. We've ruined the plan. And then the plan will fail. If you split Reform, Conservative and Forward and any other right-wing parties, Homeland and shit like that, if you split them all up, Labour will win again. Labour will win again. So you're done. I mean, it might be too late already to get out of this without violence, civil war erupting. But at least we've got a ghost of a chance with Farage. And then I know what's going to happen. I'll tell you what's going to happen when Farage gets in. I'm not under any delusions that he's actually right-wing. Farage is going to get in, make a tiny dent in it, and deport a few thousand while the deep state moves against him and the judges say, as they did with Trump, this is illegal. Can't do that. That's illegal. That's illegal. Deporting the Ethiopian diddler is illegal. Closing the hotels is illegal. They will do what they're doing to Trump, which is use every dirty trick in the book to stop him from carrying out his mission. And then Farage, being wet like he is, won't do what needs to be done, which is to outright just go on TV. What he needs to do, and he won't do it. Go on telly as the Prime Minister, national address for the nation, and spell it out. Get him there and say, right, here's what's happening. The British people, in fact, I've got a story I can segue into. Yeah. Right. The reason this became a big deal in the 2010s was because the whole public turned against immigration in the early noughties. When it transpired that Blair had moved them in, the whole reason this became a massive deal is because the whole public turned against immigration. In every single poll they've took for the last 20 years, the public have been against immigration. Not just illegal immigration, definitely against illegal immigration, but strongly against legal immigration. The public said, we have had enough of this shit, right? That's what happened. Clear as day, everybody knows it. So they started loudly, under the Conservatives, saying, as part of their manifesto, we will cut migration, we will enforce the border, and we'll cut migration down to the tens of thousands. That's what they said in response to stuff like this, the public getting very, very angry about Labour bringing in more migrants, right? And then we had 20 years of them promising to cut immigration and doing the exact opposite, which proves you're living in a police state where you vote for one thing and you get not just, it'd be bad enough if you voted for something and they went, we're not doing that after all. It'd be bad enough if they did that. But it's 10 times worse. It's treason. It's a betrayal. It is a hate crime, right? It is. It's full-blown treason. Because it'd be one thing to not do a thing, but it's quite another to do the exact opposite of what you voted for. And we voted for less immigration and we got more. So you tell me, is that not the definition of a dereliction of duty, of a betrayal, of a brazen lie, right? That's what we got. Anyway, I started ranting, doing the speech that Farage did. Sorry, let's back up a bit. So Farage, when he wins, if we stick to the plan, he won't be able to do what he needs to do because he'll try and deport some people, and every single individual, you need to be dealing with millions of people here. Every single individual will get dragged through the court, a biased, hostile court system, as slow as they possibly can. Look how slow they went with Ricky Jones. Look how fast they went with Sam Mellier. When they want to do it, they can do it quick. So this again proves, it's not hyperbolic to say this, you are being tyrannised by an authoritarian state. When they want to lock you up, they can do it in an hour. When Trump got illegal immigration down from 350,000 monthly crossings to 200, right? He got a 99.99% reduction in illegal immigration in a week. That's how fast they could do it if they wanted to. The British state said, okay, you voted for it for 25 years, we'll close the border. They could do it tomorrow. We've already got a navy, an army, and an air force. We don't need to buy any other equipment. We don't need to do anything. We don't even need to pass any more laws. We've got laws. It was always the law. You weren't allowed in illegally. We don't have to do anything. If they wanted to enforce the law, they could do it in a week. Immigration, 0 boats. 0. That's, again, I'm not prone to hyperbole. 0. If you put 20 or 30 aircraft up in the air, drones, and 30 boats in the channel, 0 boats land. They could do it with ease. Exactly. They can do it if they want to, and they don't want to, right? So, Farage, when he wins, needs to put his suit on, hold an address, tell everyone the Prime Minister's holding an address, and he needs to get out there and stand in front of the nation and say, for 30 years, the British people have unequivocally voted for less immigration and for mass deportations. And when we try to do it, the Home Office pull out a placard, Philip Rutland on it, and men like this baldy, geggy tyrant, right, who've been stealing from you for years, he is a parasite of a man. For decades, they have stopped you from doing it. So, with the blessing of the British people, unequivocal blessing of the British people, based off my mandate and my 400 seats in the House of Commons, I have total authority and sovereignty to do this because the hostile state, the hostile Home Office, the hostile civil service and the hostile judges and lawyers have been stopping us enacting what the people want us to do unequivocally. As of now, I am disbanding the College of Policing, the Metropolitan Police, the Home Office, and the Civil Service, any arms related to the immigration process. We are going to have to install martial law for 60 days, which will allow us time to train a brand new bottom-up from root and branch police force and rehire the civil servants who will do what they're told. He needs to fire every single senior judge, and the ones that have been openly treacherous dogs, like those 3 Lords Justices. Justice. I won't even use the word. I won't call them a justice because it is injustice. It is a hate crime what they are perpetuating against you. They are all getting dragged by the army. We will have the infantry pull them in, and I'll televise it so it's all open and above board. And they're getting tried for treason. And the jury is going to be made up of people that are definitely impartial, right? We're going to ensure that by making sure that all of them have, let's say, at least some tenuous link to a grooming gang victim, right? Nice and impartial, because we're making the rules now. And they're gonna say, of all the evidence put before and against for mass deportations, we're going to try the illegal immigrants as one, not 190,000 individual cases. We're going to try them all as one. And we're going to have all the evidence for and all the evidence against, and then the jury's going to decide. And when the jury decides, we're 100% behind it, then we get every single illegal immigrant out. No due process. We've already ruled. We tried them as a unit. They're gone. You don't get due process if you're an illegal immigrant. Due process is for citizens, for red-blooded Englishmen that have lived in the country and for generations. If you're an illegal immigrant, you don't get due process. Why do you have to get due process? And they'll use the old arguments, but we ignore them. Universal human rights. There's no such thing as universal human rights, because as Dr. David Starkey said, there is no such thing as a universal human. You can't have a universal human right when you don't have a universal human. And Akbar, Jabari Kafia from Somalia doesn't think the same way Emily Smith from Hampshire thinks. He doesn't think Emily Smith should be allowed to vote. He doesn't think Emily Smith should be allowed to disagree politely with him. He thinks might makes right, and you're going to smoke him, and if you don't swallow the contents of his conkers, he's going to break your jaw and you'll deserve it. That's what he thinks. That's what he thinks. They beat the wives, they rattle the cousins, they don't think you should be allowed to vote. So I don't think universal human rights should be a thing, because we haven't got a universal human. They're different. They disagree with us. They don't think the same. They don't see the world the same way. So who cares? Get them on a boat, get them on a plane, get them in a van, get them on a train, throw them out en masse. I'm sick of seeing people defend kiddie fiddlers, okay? Don't care about your lying lawyers and your universal human rights. Sydney, give me $10. Cheers, mate. Weird. Sid must be an expat as well there. $10. Thanks very much. Rest assured, I'll spend that on tins. Oh, shit, I've just remembered I have to leave early today because I'm going to pick up 2 more guns. I told them I'd be there for 1, so I have to boogie. Right, yeah, we'll have to call it early, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for that. Normally get an hour out of me, but I'm going to pick up loads of guns, and that's important. Okay? I'm going to do a stream tomorrow at the same time, so we can do an hour then. I'll be back tomorrow with Rags and Jack if he's there. We'll do it tomorrow, and we'll have this out at length. But that's my plan. That's what Farage needs to do. We need to bin the ECHR. Don't listen to them. I'm going to buy lots more firearms and lots of ammunition, so I'm off. I'll see you all tomorrow. Tune in at 7 p.m. UK. Toodle pip. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good Saturday. See you later. Take it easy.